I'm going to walk you through the 6 steps that you need to take to grow your LinkedIn account completely from scratch all the way to 10,000 followers fast. These are the same steps that helped Austin Hughes implement to go from a small account with pretty much no following all the way up to 22,000 followers and an authority in his space. But you've got to implement all of these things if you're serious about growing on LinkedIn. So pull up a Google Doc, take some notes, and get ready to implement everything we go through in this video. Step 1 is account positioning, and this is by far the most important part of actually growing a presence on LinkedIn or any social platform for that matter. Yet so many founders skimp over it. And a simple framework that'll help you figure this out from day one is answering the golden question. So what's the one reason why someone in your target audience would follow you on social media? If you can't answer that question in one simple, clear sentence, you have work to do. Now, there are a couple of common mistakes that founders will run into when they're answering their golden question. First of all, their answer is unclear. You see this a lot when founders try to get fancy with their positioning and their LinkedIn headline, and it's just confusing. You want to make your value proposition as simple as possible. So for example, someone's going to follow me because they want to grow on LinkedIn. Someone's going to follow me because they want to get better at content and social media. It's very straightforward. It's not some convoluted paragraph. Now, the second mistake here is you have too many answers to the golden question. And look, I'm not saying you have to box yourself into this very, very specific content niche forever. You can talk about different things. You can talk about personal interests, but I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't easier and faster to grow when you're known for a very specific topic. For example, if you're talking about email marketing and B2B sales, those are two pretty different categories. And if you're trying to split your attention across multiple ICPs and multiple angles, you're going to confuse your audience. And someone who followed you because they liked your email marketing advice is going to get pretty confused when they see a post on B2B sales. You want to use LinkedIn and content in general to attract customers or attract investors, attract talent. You want to be focused in what you're known for. So pick one answer to that golden question. Now, the second part to account positioning, which is arguably just as important, is you want to identify 1 to 3 core beliefs that you and your company have about your industry that other people might disagree with you on. Most founders who struggle to break through the noise and are wondering why they're posting consistently but not getting any traction or playing it too safe. Their content is sterile. Going a layer deeper though, beyond just LinkedIn content strategy, all the people worth following in history stood for something. They were pretty polarizing. You can't expect to have an average take on your industry and build an above average audience. The math just doesn't add up. Now, once you have these things figured out, you want to make sure you're clearly communicating this through your profile. Profile setup isn't that complicated. Just make sure you've got a clear profile picture, make sure your headline is set up, role, company, and then one sentence that encapsulates your answer to that golden question. And same thing in the about section. Don't write a novel here. You don't need a massive 5-paragraph essay. Just write a few sentences about what you do, who you do it for, and what value you're going to be providing on your LinkedIn account. And last quick note on profile setup is make sure your featured links are set up with the next obvious step in your funnel. So if you have a newsletter you want to get people to, put your newsletter in your featured link. If you want to send people to a book a demo page, set your featured link to that. If you want to send people to your homepage, just put your homepage as your featured link. You want to make it as easy as possible for when someone lands in your profile and follows you to also take that next obvious step in your funnel. So once you've got your account positioning in place, your profile set up, let's talk about content strategy. So step 2. The easiest way I like to think about organizing my topics and what I'm going to talk about is in a content funnel. So you've got top, middle, and bottom of funnel content. These aren't perfect. There are exceptions to these, but as a starting point, it is helpful to have a way to organize the stuff you're going to talk about. Top of funnel content is typically a bit broader, founder journey, more broad takes that perform well on LinkedIn, but aren't as targeted to your ICP. It's still worth having these. You don't want to over-index in this direction because then you just build a fluffy audience, but occasionally having a take on remote work or work-life balance or something like that that gets people going on LinkedIn. Middle of funnel content is going to be your industry-specific thought leadership. This is where you're going to spend most of your time. This is the content that establishes you as a go-to resource for your ICP. So this video you're watching right now, that would be an example of middle of funnel content. I'm establishing myself as an expert in LinkedIn growth and B2B content strategy. Bottom of funnel content, also pretty straightforward. This is all your product stuff, all the salesy stuff, demos, testimonials, case studies, feature launches, all the stuff that founders want to talk about in every single post, but isn't always the best for building an audience. Unless you have an inherently viral product like ChatGPT with the Studio Ghibli filter thing that launched a week or so ago, or Devin from Cognition Labs, the AI software engineer that really triggered people and was shareable online, only posting about your product is not going to get you very far. You want to give people a reason to consume your content, and a good framework for thinking about this is you want to be someone's favorite content creator on LinkedIn. And ideally that someone is in your ICP. So if they have time to read one post when they log on, you want that content to be yours. And like I said, the content funnel is not an unbreakable formula. It's just a simple way to organize your content ideas. Some posts are going to be a combination of middle and bottom of funnel, or top and bottom of funnel, or whatever combination of those 3 buckets. You want to be intentional with how you're picking what you're talking about. And all this stuff should map back to that answer to the golden question and those 1 to 3 industry opinions that we discussed earlier. As far as format, so video versus text versus carousels versus graphics, do a mix. Any any of those formats can perform well on LinkedIn. Carousels still perform well, short form videos doing well, text only is seeing kind of a comeback, so that can even do well. I will say across the 150 or so posts we have going live every single week with clients, I do see posts with some sort of relevant media tend to perform well. So when you can, even if you're doing a text only narrative, try to find a relevant photo or graphic that can go with it. Don't force it if there's nothing there. One more note on format selection. The algorithm is pretty balanced, but what I'd recommend personally is pick the format that you can be most consistent with. So if you love writing and you're a writer, focus on written content. If you're good on camera and you can speak eloquently, do more video content. If you think more visually and have a bunch of ideas for graphics and carousels and all that, lean heavily into that. The single most important thing when it comes to content formats is picking a medium that you can stay consistent with for a long enough period of time. Now, step 3 in this process of getting you to 10,000 followers ASAP is setting a posting cadence. Using all the instruction in this video, you will grow your audience faster, but it's still a process. And even when you do everything right, commit 6 to 12 months to posting consistently. If you cannot commit 6 to 12 months of posting consistently on LinkedIn, you do not deserve an audience. I know it's a bit harsh, but it's true. All the founders you see winning on LinkedIn did not look for shortcuts. They actually enjoy content creation and are willing to stay consistent with it, even when it is a grind. As far as the actual posting cadence here, there's a 3-level system that I recommend. Level 1 is you're just getting started. The idea of posting every day is a bit overwhelming. That's fine. You don't have to start there ASAP. Just post 3 times a week or so. Level 2 is you're starting to get the hang of it. This is where I recommend most founders hang out, which is 5 times per week. And level 3 is if you're obsessed with content like I am, and you just want to post more often, you enjoy creating, you want to test more stuff, you can go up to 7 or even a little bit more than that. What I find is that level 2 is the sweet spot. So 5 times per week is enough to get in front of your audience consistently without burning yourself out and making sure that quality stays high. Alex Hormozi recently made a video where he went through his thought process on quality versus quantity. Really, his answer was you want to create as much content as you can as long as the quality bar stays high. And the good thing is content production is a skill. When you first sit down, it might take you 5 hours to get a LinkedIn post idea out of your head into a draft and edited and ready to go. I've talked to founders who spent an entire day going back and forth on their first LinkedIn post. I can write a LinkedIn post from start to finish in 10 minutes if I need to. That's a result of practice. You can build the skill of being able to produce high quality content faster. By the way, if you're enjoying this, I think you'd love my newsletter. I send a newsletter out to my audience every single Monday where I share deep dives and playbooks on how to use content to grow your audience and get distribution for your products. If you want to turn your content into revenue, you're going to want to subscribe to the newsletter. It's totally free. I send it every single Monday, and over 13,000 B2B marketers and founders read it every single week. Step 4 in this workflow is going to be proactive engagement. A lot of founders deal with a cold start problem when it comes to their content. They post religiously, so they listen to me and they post 5 times per week, but their audience is growing at a snail's pace and they're so frustrated because they see everyone else winning on LinkedIn. So what's going on there? As it stands, the LinkedIn algorithm tends to distribute content based on engagement. So when someone in your audience engages with your content, that post then gets served to a subsection of their audience. And then if someone in that group engages, it keeps going and going and going. So when you start from scratch, you have little to no people that are going to engage with your content. So you don't get that snowball of momentum going. So you'll post a piece of content, nobody engages. The exception to this, which happens quite often actually, is when you're starting a company in a category where you have previous professional experience. This happens in a lot of cases, right? If you're a founder building a company, your experience led you to found that specific company. So an example of this would be if a VP of sales at HubSpot then goes and starts a sales tech software. They're not really starting from zero on LinkedIn. They're just starting to post, but they likely already have a network of sellers and founders built up from their years of experience in the category. If you aren't this person, you don't have that network already built up, or maybe you're starting a company earlier in your career where you don't have, again, this network that's been built up over decades. Here's what I'd do. So first, you're going to want to send 20 outbound connection requests every single day to accounts that are in your ICPs. So if you're selling into CROs at mid-market companies, go connect with 20 CROs every single day. They're going to engage. Now they're seeing your content pretty much every day and in your flywheel. So when you first start, you're manually building your audience, not relying on the LinkedIn algorithm. And eventually, once you manually build up that initial cluster of people, then the algorithm will take control and you'll get in front of more people without really having to try. The second part here is you're going to want to spend 20 minutes per day commenting on other accounts, leaving thoughtful comments. I'd rather you leave 5 thoughtful comments than 20 AI generated comments. Please do not use AI to generate comments, but spend those 20 minutes leaving thoughtful comments on both ICP accounts and influencer accounts. So if there are other accounts that are active in your category that are in your ICP, amazing. But in a lot of cases, your ICP isn't going to be actively posting on LinkedIn, but they will be following other folks on LinkedIn. So you want to engage with those folks. And a couple things are going to happen here. One, you're just getting in front of more people because you're in the comment section, and LinkedIn has actually came came out and said that people who actively comment on other content get more profile views. What's also going to happen is you're going to build this reciprocal relationship with those people you comment on. As you consistently leave real, thoughtful comments on other people's content, they're going to start to engage with your stuff. So you start to get picked up by the algorithm more. Now, step 5 is rapid iteration. So just listening to steps 1 through 4 and posting consistently for 6 months will get you there. You will grow an audience on LinkedIn. You'll start to generate revenue and leads from the platform. But this part of the strategy is how you actually grow faster. And I'll give you an Elon Musk quote that helps illustrate this. So he once said, "I think it's very important to have a feedback loop where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better." I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. You want to be doing this with your content as well. When you sit down to create your next piece of content, I want you to ask yourself, what's one specific thing that I can do to make this post better than the last 5? And the really cool thing about this is these 1% improvements can have asymmetric results. So you're not just getting 1% better every day. Those 1% tweaks on that post can be the difference between a 500 view post and a 500,000 view post. The right hook can send the post to the moon. And look, there's a ton you could focus on. There are a million different micro skills when it comes to copywriting, LinkedIn strategy, communication strategy. It can be overwhelming to try and pick what to actually focus on. So what I want to do is give you the most common areas where I recommend writers focus on in their content to get better results faster. So the first one is your hook. Are you packaging your ideas in the way that has the most viral potential? The second is your storytelling ability. Are you able to share stories and narrative, not just basic how-to content? That stuff's getting commoditized by AI very quickly. The third skill is weaving in relevant examples. I'll discuss this piece more in a second, but weaving in relevant examples from both your own career and other relevant figures is a great way to make your content perform better and increase your distribution. Step 6 is credibility jacking. And look, credibility is a multiplier for your content performance. So if you're really credible and people in your industry and category trust you, they're going to engage with and comment on pretty much anything you post. You know those accounts where they can post anything and it gets really, really great engagement? That's often a result of their credibility. And you have 2 options for growing on LinkedIn fast. So either 1, you can lean into your own credibility, or 2, you can borrow credibility from other prominent people, companies, and events. Now, let me break down the 2. So first up, you got earned credibility. An example of this would be if I was a VP of sales at HubSpot and then I left HubSpot to go and start my own sales tech software company. I would have so many stories and a lot of credibility that I could apply from that experience into that new company that I'm starting. And like we talked about earlier, this can help solve for that cold start problem on LinkedIn because I'm already going to have that network of CROs, VPs of sales, founders, and other folks built up already on LinkedIn. I was my ICP at some point, and my ICP is already following and interested in what I have to say. There's this idea in PR and comms that you need 3 things for an idea to spread: the message, the messenger, and the means. This whole idea is about the messenger piece. So a few examples of how this has actually played out. Adam Robinson grew his newest companies to a combined $25 million in ARR, and he's also targeting SaaS founders. He has credibility with SaaS founders. Austin Hughes, founder of Unify, used to work at Ramp, and early on in his LinkedIn content, we used to reference that experience quite a bit because Unify didn't have the brand recognition that it does today, but leaning on Austin's experience at Ramp lended him some credibility that we could use in that content. Now, you're not always going to have this obvious connection between what you did before and the company you're starting now. Maybe you're starting a company in a totally different category, or maybe you're just a founder who's starting the game earlier. So what do you do in that case? How do you get people to listen to what you have to say? You'll want to use a content strategy that I call credibility jacking. This is when you use the names of prominent companies, figures, and events for the ideas of your content and in the hooks of your content to get people who might not know who you are, but know who those companies, figures, and events are to stop scrolling and consider reading or watching your content. The important thing to consider with this strategy is that you don't want to turn your account into a news channel. You don't want to just be reporting on other people and what other people are doing. You have to insert your own takes and opinions into your content that establish your own expertise and credibility. You want to think about this play like taking out a loan on the other person's credibility. You use that credibility to get the reader interested, but you have to pay that loan back. You have to then deliver some sort of value or unique insight that makes the reader respect you and want to stick around for your post in the future. And one cool thing here that'll actually help you grow faster on LinkedIn as well is sometimes when you do this strategy of credibility jacking, you tag the person that you're doing a content piece on. So say, for example, again, I've done a content strategy breakdown on Ramp's playbook, and tag Ramp, they'll often reply. And again, like we talked about before, when that person engages and replies, the content piece then gets distributed to their own audience. So Alex Hormozy has also spoken about this. Someone tagged him in some breakdown they did on his content strategy. He commented on it, and that post pretty much took off because then it got amplified to his audience. And I use this exact content play, so credibility jacking, to grow from 0 to 5,000 followers on LinkedIn when I had pretty much no marketing experience. I've never taken a marketing class. When I was starting, I was was really starting from zero. And the way that I broke in was I would take companies and marketing campaigns that I thought were genuinely interesting and then do these breakdown and case study content pieces on them. I still do them to this day. Like, a big part of my content strategy is case studies and breakdowns. But early on, I was just sharing what I found interesting, what I was learning, how I thought about marketing at the time. My opinions have changed a lot since those early days, but at that time, it was a great way to document how I thought about things, and I got on the radar of some pretty notable companies. And it's how I ended up landing a job at a Series A startup, which kind of kicked off my journey in tech and ultimately led me to start my agency and grow that to 7 figures. Now, I've just laid out the blueprint for you to go from 0 to 10,000 followers on LinkedIn fast. But none of that actually matters if you don't convert those followers into revenue for your business. So click right here to check out this next video where I walk you through the exact 7 steps that you got to follow to turn those followers into paying customers for your company. I'll see you over there.